My name is Eric, and I'm a teacher at the Asian International School. And today I'm teaching you about landforms created by the river. Today's lesson is based on Unit 6.4 in your book. That's on page 86. So if you have your book, you can read along. If you don't have your book, don't worry. All of the information will be displayed on the screen here for you. You will need a notebook, so please have one ready. And let's begin. So, the goals today are to find out what landforms are created by the river, what processes created these landforms, and also how to describe and illustrate how these landforms are created. So let's have a look at some examples of these landforms first. This one is a V-shaped valley. You can see the V shape here. This is a very familiar one, a waterfall. This is a gorge. A gorge is a narrow valley with very steep sides. Here is a meander. A meander is a big bend or a loop in the river. And finally, this is an oxbow lake. An oxbow lake is a horseshoe or U-shaped lake. So, this is from page 86 in your book. So we're going to see how these landforms are created. They're created by erosion and deposition. And we'll start up here in the mountains and we see the V-shaped valley. Next is the waterfall and then the gorge. So all of these features are from the upper course of the river, near the mouth. Up here the river is flowing faster through the mountains, so it has more energy, and these are formed by erosion. Further down the river we see the meander and the oxbow lake. Now these are in the middle course of the river. Here the river is flowing more slowly, so they're formed by erosion and deposition. So a V-shaped valley. In its upper course, a river erodes sharply downwards, cutting like a knife. This gives a steep valley, but then rain washes soil and stones down the sides, and over time the valley becomes V-shaped. Next we have a waterfall. Now, a waterfall is a sign that the river is flowing over different layers of hard and soft rock. The hard rock does not erode as quickly, and the soft rock erodes much faster. So we end up with steps in the rock below the river. So let's have a look at these diagrams on the right. So number one, the soft rock is easy to erode, but the hard rock is not. So as years go by, a ledge develops. In the second picture, we can see the ledge hanging over a plunge pool. And the plunge pool is a deep pool at the bottom of the waterfall, formed by the force of the water. So number two, the water rushes over the ledge and erodes the soft rock, forming a plunge pool. Number three, in time, the ledge falls into the plunge pool, where debris helps to speed up the erosion. So in the previous unit, you learned about attrition and abrasion. So all of that broken rock in the water is helping to erode the soft rock even faster. And number four, steps 1 to 3 are repeated, and gradually the waterfall will retreat upstream. It moves back towards the source of the river. So here are some diagrams I drew, and you will have to be able to draw similar diagrams to explain how a waterfall forms. So number one, the river is flowing over layers of hard and soft rock. The soft rock erodes faster. The soft rock is eroded, forming the waterfall, and leaving a ledge of hard rock hanging over a plunge pool. Number three, in time the ledge of hard rock collapses into the plunge pool below. The process continues, and the waterfall retreats upstream. As the waterfall retreats upstream, it carves out a gorge. So in this diagram, you can see the gorge is formed from the waterfall retreating, leaving the sides of rock and a narrow valley between. So later you will have a chance to draw these diagrams. Here's a photograph of a gorge with a waterfall. Next feature is a meander. So as we said, the meander is the big bend in the river, but it starts out as a slight bend. So number one, water flows faster on the outer curve of the bend and slower on the inner curve. So, number two, the outer bank gets eroded. So that fast-moving water will erode the outer bank faster, and on the inner bank, where the water is flowing slowly, material is deposited. So over time, the outer bank wears away, and the inner one grows, and a meander forms. As the process continues, the meander grows more loopy. We're going to watch a short video explaining this process about why rivers curve.
Compared to the whitewater streams that tumble down mountainsides, the meandering rivers of the plains may seem tame and lazy. But mountain streams are corralled by the steep walled valleys they carve. Their courses are literally set in stone. Out on the open plains, those stony walls give way to soft soil, allowing rivers to shift their banks and set their own ever-changing courses to the sea. Courses that almost never run straight. At least not for long, because all it takes to turn a straight stretch of river into a bendy one is a little disturbance and a lot of time. And in nature, there's plenty of both. Say, for example, that a muskrat burrows herself a den in one bank of a stream. Her tunnels make for a cozy home, but they also weaken the bank, which eventually begins to crumble and slump into the stream. Water rushes into the newly formed hollow, sweeping away loose dirt and making the hollow even hollower, which lets the water rush a little faster and sweep away a little more dirt, and so on and so on. As more of the stream's flow is diverted into the deepening hole on one bank and away from the other side of the channel, the flow there weakens and slows. And since slow-moving water can't carry the sand-sized particles that fast-moving water can, the dirt drops to the bottom and builds up to make the water there even shallower and slower, and then keeps accumulating until it becomes new land on the inside bank. Meanwhile, the fast-moving water near the outside bank sweeps out of the curve with enough momentum to carry it across the channel and slam it into the other side, where it starts to carve another curve, and then another, and then another, and then another. The wider the stream, the longer it takes the slingshotting current to reach the other side, and the greater the downstream distance to the next curve. In fact, measurements of meandering streams all over the world reveal a strikingly regular pattern. The length of one S-shaped meander tends to be about 6 times the width of the channel. So little tiny meandering streams tend to look just like miniature versions of their bigger relatives. As long as nothing gets in the way of a river's meandering, its curves will continue to grow curvier and curvier until they loop around and bumble into themselves. When that happens, the river's channel follows the straighter path downhill, leaving behind a crescent-shaped remnant called an oxbow lake.
Or a billabong.
O un lago en herradura.
Ou un bras mort.
We have lots of names for these lakes, since they can occur pretty much anywhere liquid flows, or used to. Which brings up an interesting question. What do the Martians call them?
This Minute Earth video is brought to you by you, if you want to, because we've started a new crowdfunding campaign on the website patreon.com to help remove banner ads and support Minute Earth going forward. And we'd be honored if you considered helping us out by going to patreon.com/MinuteEarth.
So that was a meander, which leads us to an oxbow lake. So the oxbow lake is a continuation of a meander. So it begins as a big meander, like this, picture 1. Now, thanks to erosion and deposition, the neck of the meander grows narrower and narrower, and eventually, the river just takes a shortcut. Soon, the loop, the meander, is cut off altogether, and it turns into an oxbow lake. Now, in time, because there's no water flowing into that lake, it will start to fill up with plants and sediment, and eventually the Oxbow Lake will disappear. So now we'll look at the Oxbow Lake step by step again, with some more diagrams that I drew. So number one, the Oxbow Lake starts out as a meander. Erosion occurs on the outer banks and deposition occurs on the inner banks of the bend. So the neck of the meander grows narrower and narrower until the river cuts straight across. Soon, deposition separates the loop from the river, forming the Oxbow Lake. In time, the Oxbow Lake gets filled in with plant material and soil and disappears. So, now it's time for you to copy these into your notebook. I'll minimize my head so you can see. So pause the video for a few minutes until you finish drawing these diagrams and writing the descriptions below. So that is the end of today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned some useful information. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care and bye-bye.